Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce to you Asia Society's 2021 Philanthropy Visionary Award recipient, Mr. Charlie Zhang. I'm not going to talk to you about the story you probably already know, the story of his business success and philanthropic achievements, and you can read about that in the program book. I want to talk to you about the story that very few know, his life in China, his first 24 years. You might say this is a story of two people, his father and his mother. Charlie's father was the first Chinese to create a coffee shop, and it was a very successful business. It was the first of many coffee shops. His business plan was interesting. He bought his beans from all over the world, from Indonesia to South America. He created his own blends and brews. And the business thrived, even during the following decade in World War II, and continued until 1948, when the world changed with the Communist Revolution. In 1950, Charlie's father was sent to a labor camp outside Shanghai, at which he spent the next 3 years. Upon his release, he came back to his family. A couple of years later, Charlie was born. But in 1957, Charlie's father was sent back to a labor camp, this time to faraway northwest China. And there he remained for the next 20 years. It was a very difficult time for Charlie's family. In 1966, of course, the Cultural Revolution occurred, and that only compounded the problems. During those years, the business was taken over by the Chinese government, their property was seized, their bank accounts were seized, and they were ostracized throughout the city. Charlie's mother raised Charlie and his 9 siblings to be strong, to be resilient, to be thrifty, to be fastidious, and to be kind and generous and compassionate. 1973, at the age of 17, Charlie was taken from his family and sent to a farm outside Shanghai on the island of Chongming, and there he remained for 7 years. When he returned in 1980, at the age of 24, his parents decided to send him to the United States. And he arrived on our shores with 2 suitcases, an old clarinet that had been given to him that he learned to play at the farm, and $20. And what he really wanted to be was a professional musician. But circumstances were not going to allow it. Instead, he worked for a Chinese restaurant as a dishwasher. And the rest, well, as they say, that's history. I have an opportunity to talk to Charlie about those years. And so I'd like you to help me welcome our honoree, our recipient of the Philanthropy Visionary Award for 2021, Mr. Charlie Zhang. Charlie.
Thank you so very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please. Charlie, you didn't have a lot of time with your father in your early years. What did you learn from him, and when did you realize what he was teaching you, even though you may not have been there with him all those years?
My mom, my older brother, sister, always here there to talk about my dad, the way caring, love, consistent, the way he treated people. I just from a very young age, I learned.
If there were one thing you remember about your father that really helped to shape your life, business life or non-business life, what would that one thing be?
You really learned you have to take care of your own people, your team. The way you invest on them, the return is unconditional. You don't know. So that's how you take care of the people.
Because of all the hardships, you also learned to be very thrifty. And you also learned to be very resilient. And did you find that what you learned was so significant in one or more of those areas? Trying to understand you've created this amazing life here in the United States, but you came with these characters, these characteristics, the qualities of your life. And I'm trying to understand best what really shaped who you are. What was it your mom did that you knew then, that's who I want to be?
I think my mom gave me a little culture is always never, ever, ever give up. And discipline yourself, confidence yourself. Other people you can do better. So we have those genetic. My daddy on off coach me. You have to take care of the people. You have to put a love arm around your people. You're gonna win.
Well, you have two remarkable parents, even though both were going through some terribly difficult time. And I am so appreciative of what they did, because I've had the opportunity to see how it turned out and what you have done, both in business and in your philanthropic life, really manifests what they taught you. I know your father would be very proud of you, and I know your mother is very proud of you. So I think it was a task well done by them.
Thank you.
You often have said, no Nixon, no Charlie.
Yes.
What did you mean?
Nixon is our beloved president. He is the legacy, is a vision, opened the door between China and the U.S. We really remember the quote, American is a great people. Chinese is a great people. Those great people gotta be together. We will be friends. So he is the one have vision to visit China 1972. He's the one have a guts to land the land of China, to have a first-hand shaking. To look at today, if now his relationship, diplomatic relationship with China 1979, I have no way welcoming the great country and great land. I'm proud of it.
I want to explore your story of Pickup Sticks for just a minute. There were certainly lots of Chinese restaurants here in the United States.
Yes.
You came here with essentially no real business experience. You started working in a Chinese restaurant. What did you learn while you were working in that Chinese restaurant that shaped the way you were going to create your own restaurant?
Well, I got a first job as a dishwasher. But one thing I learned sort of learned what Americans really love the Chinese food, because the plate went to the dishwash, nice clean, because they will love the food, take it home. I try to be memorized. And also I learned what a food being rejected, they don't even want to take it to go home. So I did an analysis. I say, this is really American food, American the way to eat. So that's created a recipe.
So the Chinese restaurant, and you worked for more than one.
Yes.
You learned both as a dishwasher what people were eating and what they weren't eating, but you were also a waiter. Yes. How did that affect you?
Well, that moment, I built a very good relation, people's skill, kind of warm love. I practice English with the dialogue with the customer. And also, I truly learned American culture, the way they use talk, they're doing birthday party, how their mom, kids united together at a dinner dining table. So that's I learned so much.
When you sold the restaurant to TGI Fridays,
Yes.
did you think your career would take you away from the restaurant business? And where did you decide to go at that point? Many people don't know what to do.
I know. It's a pretty culture shocking. It was. But immediately I realized I'm only 46 years old at that time. I have a lot of gas in the tank. I want to be committed myself, have another career. And also I realized it's a turn to give back. I want to be the typical traditional American way. That's why I have that vision.
That concept of giving back is not necessarily a Chinese culture. Your mother was very generous and kind, but your form of philanthropy was at a level that was not generally done in China. What triggered that? How did you develop into the philanthropist that you have become?
I really ask myself, do you want to be typical Chinese American way to give back, or you want to be the champion? My really philosophy, I want to be the champion. I want to be leader example. So I didn't follow what other people do. I follow. I want to be polished, be the best. So I learned, including how the way to give back.
Who do you think influenced you the most, and what did you learn from that individual in your philanthropy?
I have a lot of friends around, the American typical friend. The way I really seeking like a sponge to learn how that you should give back. Look at the great hospital, great education system, great. That's all based on the early generation they give back. So I want to be like that.
Well, you're a great model for others, not just other Chinese, but for all of us. You've been the largest donor in the history of the Pacific Symphony. You created this performing arts school that I have the great honor of leading. What's the next hill that you want to climb?
Continue seeking what are the next hill. I continue run my race, be the best I can be.
If there were one message you wanted to leave to your children, you have two fine sons, you're a grandpa, and they now are looking at you as the model. What's the message you would like to impart to your children and to your grandchildren?
Well, I will tell them, kids, continue run your race. Be the American. That's why this called land of the free, home of the brave.
Well, Charlie, I can tell you as a friend and a colleague, you are a great model for all of us. I know that is true in the minds of your children. And I guess the one question I would ask to close this is, who is the secret power behind the throne? Tell us a little bit about your wife, Ling.
Oh, you gotta be. She's everything behind it. You know, it's God give us opportunity to get to know 36 years ago. She's my coach. She really behind support everything. So the front I have a Charlie, all the programming is my wife, Lynn.
Well, combined, you're a real power couple. And on behalf of our audience, and certainly I speak for the Asia Society, we're so proud of you and grateful for what you have done. And we look for many more years of your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Continue.
much.
Thank you.